then I will call this meeting of the Finance and Labor Relations Committee to order. Item 2, declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none, I will move on to delegations, none scheduled. Report of the Manager of Financial Services. Item 4.1. Is Zach here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You're the executive director of something, I guess. All I see is executive director. So if you're ready, Zach, could I get a motion from Councillor Bunting and Councillor Ritzma? All those in favor? I guess I only need one. Go ahead, Zach. Give us a short version, if you would, please.
I'll do my best. I'll just share my screen for a moment. Okay, I will try to be as brief and efficient as possible. It has been quite a while since I've had the opportunity to present to you, but I am fully caffeinated and we'll talk quickly. So 2020 in review. 2020, I think we can all agree, has represented the most disrupted and challenging year for tourism, at least in living memory. It has required agility and adaptability from all tourism organizations, and Destination Stratford quickly and efficiently refocused its resources and efforts on economic recovery for our tourism sector and community. So our activities fall into 3 broad categories: destination marketing, destination development, and destination management. And I'll touch on all 3 of those for the 2020 in review and also activities in 2021. A tremendous amount has been accomplished during 2020, some of which I've shared with you and some of which I have not. We only have time today to focus on a few selected highlights, but a quick reminder that the full 2020 year in review document was distributed to council and is also available on our website at visitstratford.ca/about. So I'd like to start with destination marketing. In 2020, we expanded our influencer marketing to great effect, and we're able to focus on the immediate region, working with influencers located in London, Kitchener-Waterloo, and right here in Stratford. Overall, the Stratford stories shared by the 21 invited influencers had a reach of over 1.5 million and substantial engagement, as you can see on the slide here. We also focused on earned media throughout the year with over 60 unique articles across over 200 syndicated media channels. This slide shows the percentage of total advertising spends as well as the number of campaigns by channel. So from regional radio to digital billboards to TV to print, we were busy marketing across every channel throughout 2020. Our foray into TV advertising across the region was highly successful in safely bringing many new visitors from nearby cities into Stratford during the summer and fall, some of whom have never been here, surprisingly, despite living only an hour's drive away. I'm extremely proud of our marketing team for achieving significant growth in our social media following and engagement for 2020. This is quite remarkable given the unusual year, with many of our regular attractions and stories not happening or at best running at reduced capacity. Keeping Stratford top of mind for our visitors while also expanding our audience with engaging and highly shareable content was our objective. And as you can see here, we experienced an increase in overall social media engagement of 147% compared to 2019 pre-pandemic. Switching over to destination development, one of our biggest challenges and successes was promoting and selling our culinary trails. Despite pandemic travel restrictions, a temporary 4-month closure, as you can see here in the chart from April through July, and a much smaller target market than previous years, we were able to set records during the reopening that outperformed all previous years for the Chocolate Trail and the Christmas Trail. These trails in 2020, and I suspect in 2021, were critically important to provide destination experiences with which to market and entice regional visitors and to stimulate small business activity at the many partner locations. Like several of the destination development projects from 2020, Lights on Stratford grew out of the Stratford Response and Recovery Task Force. and creatively lit up our city to stunning effect while employing local arts professionals with a Made in Stratford approach. I'll remind you that this was quite an ambitious undertaking with a very compressed timeline, along with pandemic restrictions, to create and install original light displays in multiple locations for an inaugural 3-month festival. We were highly successful with the displays, including the new Tom Patterson Theatre, City Hall projections with the Light Sculpture Garden, as well as Tom Patterson Island, but were unfortunately forced to close at the 2-month point due to a provincial stay-at-home order. The community feedback and support for this new festival was overwhelmingly positive, and several communities across Ontario and beyond have consulted us on how to create their own version. As they say, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, so Stratford should be quite proud. Destination Stratford has committed to continuing Lights on Stratford, and I'll speak more to that in a moment. Also stemming from the task force, Stratford Al Fresco launched in 2020, and it was a true community collaboration. This project was a major undertaking with the addition of 50 Made in Stratford CR plastic picnic tables to our public areas, along with staff and a multitude of volunteers who sanitized tables and managed each of the Al Fresco locations. With uncertain capacity limits for indoor and patio dining, Al Fresco positions Stratford to celebrate and leverage its outdoor spaces as a compelling culinary destination offering, while also assisting with our economic recovery goals. 2020 also saw the first liquor with food in designated public spaces bylaw. And for this, I thank Joni Gerber from Invest Stratford for partnering to present this to the city and council, who took a progressive and expansive approach in adopting this pilot project. Al Fresco, along with patio extensions with boardwalks, enabled economic recovery well in excess of $500,000, and the legacy lifetime value for future years is immense. Moving to destination management, with a shift in our website from member-based pages to a focus on holistically highlighting the key destination stories, a new and streamlined website was developed and launched in the fall with a total cost of $5,000. With ever-shifting pandemic restrictions, Destination Stratford played an important role with visitor communications by creating and maintaining several interactive online maps so visitors knew which accommodators, restaurants, and public washrooms were open, along with maps for al fresco, patios, public art locations, and of course our Chocolate Trail online map, which was visited over 17,000 times for a cumulative total of 870 hours spent on the page in 2020. Stratford City Centre downtown dollars proved to be extremely popular throughout the pandemic as a great way for the community to help with economic recovery for local businesses. The Destination Stratford office handles downtown dollar sales and remittances and experienced a 900% increase in sales over 2019, which our front office staff handled beautifully. Destination Stratford has also played an important advocacy role during the pandemic, in particular for the accommodation sector. We successfully lobbied to have B&B license fees waived and also to have short-term accommodation businesses included in the provincial small business grant program. So with that, I would like to talk a little bit about what's happened so far this year. So despite myriad and ever-shifting tourism restrictions, Destination Stratford has been working diligently over the last 5 months to ensure that our community leverages and optimizes opportunities for economic recovery while we all continue to navigate this pandemic together. From significant applications for federal and provincial tourism infrastructure grants to leading recovery and destination development projects like Al Fresco and Lights on Stratford, to advocating on behalf of our restaurants, accommodators, retailers, and cultural providers, to diversifying our tourism offering with cycle tourism, and to continue inclusion and diversity training for the local tourism sector so that Stratford embraces being a progressive and truly welcoming community for all visitors. There are too many current projects to discuss in detail here, such as the recent Circles installation that you may have seen go in the park, or the Destination Animation Project in its 6th year in partnership with Stratford City Centre and RTO4, which is co-funding 13 exciting new cultural projects this year. But here are a few key highlights for 2021 thus far that I'd like to share with you. So during periods of province-wide travel restrictions, Destination Stratford turns its marketing and communications focus to be hyper-local to help stimulate local support of our tourism businesses. We are fully committed to a Made in Stratford approach, We work whenever possible with local suppliers for our video production, photography, and ad development, as is evident here with our very own inimitable Stuart Reynolds, better known across the internet as Brittlestar. With support from our partners, Destination Stratford is the lead organization building on last year's success with Alfresco by majorly expanding the Liquor with Food program to include the entire south shore of the park, enhancing equipment at Memorial Gardens, and properly staffing operations to fulfill all health and safety protocols as already reviewed by our health unit here on Perth Public Health. I'm pleased to report that there are already over 20 restaurants officially signed up for the Liquor with Food program. So local residents and visitors alike, prepare to enjoy some amazing meals with paired wines and beverages in Market Square, Memorial Gardens, Tom Patterson Island, and the park system. All equipment and health and safety supplies have been procured, Alfresco staff have been hired, signage completed, and our Alfresco project manager, Kaylee Kristofiak, has everything in place to launch Alfresco within 48 hours of a provincial announcement that the current lockdown restrictions can be lifted, hopefully soon. Stratford, Love Stratford box. Another innovation from our marketing team, the $100 retail Love Stratford box sold out not once, but twice. The first launch earlier this year sold out in the first 24 hours. We then doubled the quantity for the second launch, which sold out in 48 hours. The Love Stratford box not only directly supported local businesses, but also kept Stratford top of mind with a unique slice of Stratford shipped all across the country directly to our visitors' front door. And we received some incredible feedback. I'll share just one of the many messages sent to us. Quote, "We love the Love Stratford box. Some of the contributing vendors were new to us, and we look forward to patronizing them once we can travel. It was even better than described. Thank you." Sometimes severe constraints can lead to great solutions. In creating our online self-guided audio walking tours, in-market visitors have a safe outdoor activity that highlights the best of Stratford and area. But of equal importance, these tours can also be enjoyed by anyone from the safety of their homes. We've been amazed by the demand and success of the tours, especially by those touring from a distance, including overseas. We have 6 tours launched so far, the most recent a collaboration with Garden Stratford. We're also working directly with Stratford Perth Museum on a citywide Justin Bieber audio tour, which will launch later this month, as well as with Stratford Festival on a Tom Patterson audio tour set to launch this summer. In total, we will have over 10 full audio tours available for 2021, with more exciting announcements coming soon. You can check out over 100 audio tour stops now at visitstratford.ca/audio tours. The collaborative effort to bring Stay Safe COVID-19 rapid screening tests to our city was led by Invest Stratford and has been a huge success. Destination Stratford is managing the pickup and distribution logistics for getting the test kits to our local businesses. Yesterday, I picked up over 7,500 tests from Communitech and distributed them in the afternoon at our tourism office to over 50 local businesses. Over the last 4 weeks, we have distributed over 20,000 tests from our office. I personally interact with the business owners when they come to pick up their kits, and I can attest that they are extremely grateful to have access to these while they work to keep our business and community safe. Just this weekend, I received a call from a former Premier of Ontario who expressed his excitement that Stratford was working on developing cycle tourism. I had never talked to him before, so there are definitely some proponents for cycle tourism in our region and city. We are very fortunate to have amazing routes with a mix of gravel and paved scenic country roads that lead to charming destinations across the county, including ours, with a world-famous cultural attraction with incredible accommodation, culinary, and retail. So further diversifying our tourism offering with a safe outdoor activity that's in high demand is a no-brainer. Destination Stratford has officially partnered with both St. Mary's and Perth County to collaboratively focus our efforts to intentionally develop and market cycling for our destination. Map development and distribution, better connections and wayfinding from Stratford to St. Mary's, and the G2G Rail Trail are just a few of the planned projects. The first step was a joint membership in Ontario by Bike, which will allow us to do the work involved in becoming officially designated as a cycle-friendly destination. To kick things off, we're hosting 2 free cycle tourism webinars for local businesses led by the experts at Ontario by Bike. The first webinar was hosted yesterday evening, and the second date is tomorrow, Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. So if you haven't registered yet, please do so. More details are at visitstratford.ca/cycletourism. And there's also a recording of the first webinar there. Destination Stratford is thrilled to once again be the lead organization for Lights on Stratford, and we can't wait to share our upcoming summer and fall pop-ups, including dramatically lighting the bridges within our park system and installing over 2,000 overhead festoon bulbs across Tom Patterson Island in support of al fresco. The main festival is scheduled to start December 17th and run through to January 21st. This year's theme is Journey, an act of traveling from one place to another, which we've been denied for quite a while now. Stay tuned for further details about this winter's lights displays. So I'd like to wrap up this presentation with a quick financial update. Destination Stratford and Lights on Stratford have just completed our 2020 audited financial statements, which will be posted on our website later this week, together with yesterday's AGM presentation. I'm pleased to report that Destination Stratford continues to remain in a healthy financial position despite the decrease in revenues due to the pandemic. And we are completely on track with year-to-date revenues and expenses for our 2021 budget that was submitted earlier. We have applied for several large Lights on Stratford grants totaling over $300,000 and expect to hear back on those in the coming months. We're also working with City Services to apply for a $250,000 Canada Healthy Communities grant for improvements to the Boathouse public washrooms. This project would see an expansion of those facilities and have them operable year-round. If we're serious about 4-season tourism, then this is the type of tourism infrastructure investment that's required. Additionally, Destination Stratford has secured substantial partner funding from RTO4 for 2021 Stratford projects, including alfresco, Lights on Stratford, cycle tourism development, a focused sport tourism consult, as well as continued inclusion and diversity training for our tourism sector. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Zach, Councilor Ritzma?
Not so much a question, but a comment. There's a really old saying, Graham Bunting might know this saying, that smooth waters doesn't make for a great sailor. And COVID-19 has certainly caused some very rough waters. And however, Destination Stratford has risen to the occasion and become even better sailors than they were before. So Zach, on behalf of council, thank you very much. You guys are doing an amazing job and amazing work, and please share that with all your colleagues. Very well done. Wow.
Thank you, Councilor Ritzma. Councilor Clifford.
Thanks, Chair. Zach, I was going to ask, you talked about grants and you explained quite a few of them. Are there any grants to help with like restaurants and stuff? Like I think we had some help, like with all the extra costs they have to and it's been slow for them. Is there any extra grants to help the restaurants in Stratford and area?
I suspect that my colleague and counterpart at Invest Stratford may speak to that. As you'll be aware, the FedDev Stat program was specifically designed for that. And I'll let Joni speak to that, but there have been meetings around collaborating and expanding that specifically to help local businesses. Right,
and the other question I have, in 2022, I think everyone wants to travel. I want to travel. How are we going to like grab the attention, but like for Stratford, for everyone that wants to travel? Like I want to go, say I want to go to Spain or Europe or wherever I can afford to go. So how are you planning to change it for 2022 to grab the attention to have people come to Stratford?
It's a great question. I actually think we're uniquely positioned. So before that happens, we will see an explosion of regional tourism once it's slowly allowed to happen. And so we're allowed to invite within a 1.5 hour catchment. We have many millions of people who are desperate to travel, as you mentioned. So we can put our best foot forward and make sure that we do an exemplary job during that phase, which will last between 1 and 2 years, depending on how the pandemic plays out. as we can invite international tourism, and especially when the US border opens and that starts to flow, we will actually see substantial tourism, especially with the Stratford Festival back up in full operation in future years. We're working closely with Destination Ontario and Destination Canada to make sure that Stratford is on the map and that we are well represented for when that time does come. In the meantime, we're participating in top of mind activities. So for example, I shared the Love Stratford box initiative. That was so successful, and we sold boxes to BC and to the East Coast. We are working now on a US box. That box that we had could not be shipped across the border because of certain food items. So we're doing all kinds of things, including talking to our US visitors who can't come and may not be able to for quite some time, to make sure that Stratford's top of mind. So when the curtain opens, we expect a lot of fanfare.
Thank you. Any other questions? Could I get a motion to receive that Destination Stratford report? Councillor Beatty, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Councillor Ritzma, for the wonderful message from Council.
Okay, item 5, report of the Economic Enterprise Development Corporation. Are you there, Joni? You can go right ahead whenever you're ready.
Wonderful. Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity. As Zach mentioned, it's been a while since we've last met. I think back in October of 2020, and we've been quite busy doing a lot of not only small business work, but also, certainly with our industrial and commercial companies. Zach stole my PowerPoint slides, so I'll just be talking to you, and you have your report in front of you, I hope so. I will be brief. However, I do want to highlight a couple of things. So as you are likely to know, our business park is sold or reserved in its entirety. That's the right business park. So all of the lots in the second iteration of the business park are under reserve or sold. And the 12-acre parcel that is in the first development portion of the business park between our partners at Scheffler Aerospace and Majest is also under reserve. I bring this to your attention because not only do we often talk about industrial land development and inventory, it does highlight how successful many of our industries have continued to be through COVID-19 and the success and popularity of Stratford as a home for those industries and commercial enterprises. They are hiring, they're expanding, and should you, like me, have a little less to do in the evenings, take a drive through the business park, you'll see an awful lot of activity. So we have some larger firms that have begun and finalized some of their expansions, and then other new businesses that have sprung up over the last 9 to 12 months. So I'm incredibly proud of the work that's being done, not only by the city's infrastructure and development services team, but also by the leadership in our companies. One area where we have taken a deep dive is in infill. And by infill, I mean companies that had purchased an abundance of land, let's say, and haven't needed it all, and perhaps could use that for build to suit for other like-minded industry or companies. So we've looked at working again with the IDS team on where those properties lie within the city boundary. And there are a number of them. There's just under 100 acres, anywhere from between 0.8 to 2 to 3 acres in size. So our team is going to take on, over the course of the next 2 to 3 months, reaching out to all of those landowners to see where their plans lie, and if they may be interested in either working with the city to sever those parcels, or even doing some lease options on those parcels, really to help stopgap a little bit in terms of the industrial inventory, but also to create some robust infill opportunities. Lots of marketing underway, certainly with our international partners. Foreign direct investment has not slowed down, even though we've not been able to travel to meet them directly. Lots of virtual lead generation. So Zoom is very, very popular. Teams, Google Meets, you name it, but we're using them all. We've got 30 virtual lead generation meetings planned in the next 3 months. So there's a great deal of interest not only in the Canadian and the Ontario market, but also then within Stratford. Entrepreneurship and small business. So I'm going to just take a real quick minute. Through the Small Business Enterprise Center, the Stratford Perth Center for Business, the City of Stratford supports its entrepreneurs in a very, very robust way. It is in some ways unique that the city makes this investment versus our partners in the province. It is funded by the Ontario government as well. But I really think as council, you should pat yourselves on the back because you fund the support of those entrepreneurs directly yearly, and we are seeing the fruits of that labor. So at the end of 2021, because it's a fiscal year end, so it's very complicated, but at the end of the day, it finishes March 31st. At the end of March 31st, we supported out more than 150 small businesses and created just over 97 jobs in a pandemic. Spectacular results in our opinion. And that's not just in Stratford, but also Perth County and St. Mary's. We piloted a digital accelerator before Digital Main Street so that businesses could help move online. And I'm really, really proud of the Mental Wellness for Entrepreneurship program that was hatched within the SBEC, but now has been funded through the entirety of 2021 by the City of Stratford Social Services Department. So kudos to Kim McElroy and her team for seeing the impact and the importance of funding our business owners and their mental wellness as they manage through all of the ups and downs. So that year has completed. We move into our third year of a 3-year contract with the province. I'm confident that our results will renew that contract without any risk, because I do believe that for a municipality to really support its entrepreneurs, this program has met that need. And so I'm incredibly proud of that. Zach mentioned the STAC grant. When we met last, we were just sort of hatching it. And now we finished it off. So $750,000, 47 grants, 47 businesses were supported, 370 permanent jobs created or maintained, and 565 temporary jobs created and maintained. That's outstanding. So thank you to all of those businesses. Thank you to the federal government through FedDev, and also to this council for seeing that creativity and flexibility. We came to you and said, can we try this? Can we do this? Can we get this happening and done in a really quick period of time? You often always said, yes, sure, move fast, go quickly. And I think we're really seeing how important that was, certainly last year and this year as well. If you hop on our website, you'll see that we've used this opportunity through that STAC grant to feature those 47 businesses. So not only have we supported their initiatives by funding their transformation or their adaptability, many of them did outdoor dining options, patios, some did HVAC systems so that the air transfer was more safe and health indoors. They did cool and interesting digital magazines and websites. You can check that out on our website, and the links click directly through to those individual businesses. So you can take a little minute to see what they've been up to. Zach mentioned the rapid screening kits. There again, nothing stops us in Stratford. And so I think that leadership starts at the top. And so thank you for that. Again, Zach took my slides, so I'm all finished. Through the chair, happy to entertain any questions you might have. And thanks again for the opportunity.
Thanks, Joni. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Clerk.
Hi, Joni. I asked earlier, is there any 2021 FedDev? Is anything happening? Because all these restaurants and, they've all been hurt. Is anything happening in that?
So thank you for that question. In the federal budget announced in April, FedDev did receive additional funding, many millions, to replicate what I believe was our STAT grant across the country. Last week, the various levels of FedDev leadership met with many of our business owners who participated to hear what was needed and how they could continue to be supportive. They heard a lot about long-term sustainability, similar to what you've brought up, Councillor Clifford, around, that was how do we create long-term impact and really make sure that the foundation is strong. I was bold and said, if we can get a regional project put together, how quickly can you write a check? And they said, don't wait for the program parameters to come out, start submitting us some project proposals. So Zach and Kelly from St. Mary's, the team from Perth County, we're going to meet in the next week and have a real regional discussion about how we can triple those results and get some money flowing into Stratford as soon as possible. I don't think it's next month, but we'll see. I would love to see something by the end of the summer, which is not a quick fix, but if we can keep our foot on the gas where FedDev's concerned, I think we'll see something. There's a number of projects through the Ontario government. They're more sort of festival foundation in scope, but I'm hopeful that they'll have a small bit of small business funding attached to them as well. So we'll wait to see. But I can tell you that the networks that have been built through Destination Stratford, Invest Stratford, and others, we're on the initial rollout of these funding programs. So when these things are announced, they're hitting our inbox almost immediately, and we have ideas and easily executable projects ready to go as soon as they come out.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Ritzma.
Yeah, and thank you again for the presentation, Joni. And I know success is demonstrated through the sales of the land, in the right business park, but it's also reflected in the numerous expansions. Any idea of the numbers in that region that have expanded from their original? Because that's a demonstration of tremendous success.
So sorry, please finish.
Yeah, and if you don't have an exact number, but I certainly know it's a fairly substantial number.
So through the chair, thank you for that question. We're just putting together the final touches on the Invest Stratford AGM report, and don't quote me on the exact number, but my recollection is we're about 100,000 plus square feet in expansion in 2020. So that's existing businesses that have added to their footprint. So to your point, Councillor Ritzma, land sales are good, and they certainly help us, expand in terms of additional inventory. The assessment, though, growth really does lead to great opportunity as well, and the associated job growth. So about 100,000 square feet. We'll have that number, though, for you after the AGM in June.
Thank you, and great job to you and your team.
Thank you.
Councillor Clifford.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Joni, when you talk about people contacting you about like industrial growth, and with our problem with available, so when people contact you, is there a timeline? Like if I come and say I want to construct a 500,000 square foot factory, are you giving them some type of timeline saying, well, here's what you can expect? And also, I was going to ask you along that line, what kind of expectations do you have from like our council to help you with that?
So thank you. Through the chair, timelines are really interesting. Often, because of the robustness of our web resources, a lot of the early research has been done by the companies before they even land in our inbox. So they kind of know what they're looking at and what may be available. When they're getting ready to develop, they are 90 to 120 days. And so they really like the fact that they can do their formal consultation and their building permit process almost concurrently and work really closely with the IDS team, because often that's where a lot of the sort of the nuts and bolts gets determined in terms of what goes where and site plan, et cetera. So it is very, very quick. And this is why we have these ongoing discussions about inventory, because our companies really the companies that are interested can't wait the 18 to 24 months for us to get servicing in the ground before they can start their building process and be up and operational. Their decisions to expand or to build new communities have often started 6 to 9 months before they even get to us, until they start really narrowing those sites down. For the most part, the sales cycle on a cold lead, we'll say, or a fresh lead is anywhere from 2 to 5 years. Many of the companies we meet with now will be on your doorstep, in 2023, 2024. So we're really starting to see, when the marketing began for the second iteration of the business park, when it had a lot of available lots, a lot of those leads are now turning into really, really warm warm contacts. And so it is really quick. And so from a council perspective and the things that we need, you know, the advocacy that you all do on behalf of all sectors of the economy is critically important. So, you know, we can have a really big discussion about the economic impact of tourism and hospitality and manufacturing and healthcare and professional sectors, but that diversity is critically important. You know, as Zach mentioned, a 900% increase in the downtown bucks. There were a number of our manufacturers who spent more than tens of thousands of dollars in downtown bucks as gifts and on bonuses for their employees to then spend in the downtown core. And those are the real collaborative stories that I like to tell. So it's a very long-winded way of saying, you know, from a council perspective, keep doing what you're doing. Keep, you know, keep acknowledging that the timelines between unserviced land to service land keep getting longer, the longer we wait in terms of decisions on that. But you know, it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge to have. It's a very popular, Stratford is a very popular, popular municipality for development.
Thanks, Joni. Any other questions? I will entertain a motion to accept the report. Joni, Councillor Clifford, I thought I saw your hand move. All those in favor? Carried. Thanks, Joni. Item 6, report of the IDS consultant 6.1, City of Stratford Waste Management Rate Study. Oh, I see Ed and his shagginess are on the lines. Go ahead if there's anything you want to introduce to the conversation, Ed.
Yes. Thank you, through the chair. This report's been a while in the making, but it is an important report as it sets the stage for future rates for the city. It covers off three things as mentioned in the report: the yearly operating costs, those are your recycling costs, your waste collection costs, the operation at the landfill itself. Then your capital program, and so those are when we move on to the next cell development in the landfill, when we have to expand the leachate collection system, the methane collection systems, or as we build up the cells, you have to do those expansions or expand those collection systems in those cells. You need capital funding to do all that. So, and then finally, and sometimes this is forgotten about, is post-closure activities. You know, when the landfill does reach the end of its life, you have to close it down, do the final cap, but that's not the end of it. We're still collecting leachate out there that needs to be treated. The methane collection system is still operating and has to be maintained. We're still doing yearly reports to the ministry where we have a number of observation wells at the perimeter of the site, and some of them are and some of the neighboring lands where we have to continue sampling it to look to see if any of the leachate is escaping the landfill, what are the potential impacts on neighboring lands, what are the remedial actions that we have to do. There's some nearby properties that we go in and do methane testing to make sure that no methane is getting into some nearby buildings. And I could just report on the methane, we haven't had any issues, but that still needs to go on even though post-closure, and it can go on for decades afterwards. And that costs money, and you need funds to cover off those costs. So those are the three things that this study looked at, in ensuring that that we had enough funds to do the yearly operations, the capital program, the post-closure, and as well start putting some money aside for a future landfill. You know, right now we're probably looking at about 2046 with the closure of this landfill. It's extremely difficult right now in Ontario to establish a new landfill. It could take up to about 10 years and millions of dollars. One of the things, and I'll mention here that Stratford should look at, but you know, it probably still, you know, 10 to 15 years away, is look at the possibility of going higher with our existing landfill. I mean, a lot of other landfills go up much higher than than we have right now. But you still have to go through this process with the consultants to do something like that. So again, there's significant cost in doing that. If you look at another option of saying going to another landfill somewhere, does the city want to construct a waste transfer station there, a proper transfer station to take any waste and recyclables from Stratford to where this new facility would be? So these are all the things to think about in the future. I know 2046 seems a long way off. It is, but I would say you would at least 10 years before the closure that the work needs to start to look at locating a new landfill. So what staff are recommending based on the rate options that consultant came up was option number 2. And as you can see, it goes through where the tipping fee should go to from now until 2026. We did talk about what some of the neighboring communities are charging, and those are just the immediate communities in the area that are charging anywhere from $75 to $85 a ton, and that's an immediate area. But when you go further afield, like for instance, the city of Guelph, I think it's somewhere between $120 to $130 a ton that they're charging for waste. So we're quite a bit cheaper than some of these other locales, but I do know that you're seeing some rates in other communities as high as that. It talks about where the bag tag fee needs to go, and finally the tax subsidy that we've been providing that was introduced as part of the green bin program. What's interesting, you'll see in 2025 a noted reduction in the increases as well as a reduction in the tax subsidy, and that ties around the transfer of recycling to producer responsibility. According to the list put out by the province, it's supposed to happen in 2024 in Stratford. Unfortunately, we still don't know what it means. I was at a webinar late last year to talk about it, where the province was going, and literally there were hundreds of questions because there were, I think there were a couple of hundred municipalities that were on this webinar just firing in questions, and unfortunately, the staff from the ministry couldn't get to all the questions, but a lot of the questions they didn't have answers to. So okay, what does that mean for recycling? What I did get out of it at the end of the day, the city of Stratford will still be in the recycling business. We won't be out of it totally. And because we provide services that more than likely will not be picked up by these producer responsible organizations. So we will still have to, in order to maintain the programs that we have now and what we collect, we'll still have to be in the game. It may be paying these people, but I anticipate that there'll still be funding required for that even when that shift does happen. So anyways, this is kind of a snapshot of where to go. As the consultant noted, should revisit this in 2025, 2026, once we know what's going on with that transfer of recycling, what costs have been transferred over to the producers and what's left with the city. And so it's a good blueprint. It's to be, as recommended here, receive the study, and that it be used as staff prepare the 2022 budget and talks about what the new fees will be for, bag tag fees, for landfill tipping fees, etc. The funds that would be needed is from the tax supported portion of the waste management system. So that's my presentation, and I'm open to any questions that
Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Clifford.
Thank you, Chair. When I came on council in 30 years ago, they told us the landfill site would last about 25 years. And then I'm looking at this report, and I don't doubt the report, but what I was thinking, I don't know why we don't put the tipping fee up, because if we want the landfill site to last longer, or even go up higher, like you suggested, what I think is a great idea, by the way, we could have a ski hill here if it gets high enough, but what they've done in other places. But anyways, I'm wondering, I'm going to ask our director, or if I saw what they're talking about, the tipping fee, but I don't see why we wouldn't put that up instead of a couple percent, put it up, 5 or 10% for 1 year, and then on top of that. And I know it's going to cost us. I take things to the landfill site, but honestly, it's other costs. It's not a huge cost. So I was going to ask about tipping fee, if it could be higher. What your thoughts were on that?
I can answer that. But we did have that discussion even internally with staff when we were looking at the report. What the challenge is, it is a balance, and I understand what you're saying, but we need some of that revenue to help operate the landfill. If we start chasing away business and then they go elsewhere and we see a significant decline, our costs really don't change the same. A lot of our costs are fixed. And so then, we'd have to start looking at, okay, then do we need to increase our tax subsidy to cover that off? Because what will happen is that if we go too high, it may be economical for some of these haulers to go to private landfills when they start looking at the cost of haulage versus what we're start charging in the way of a tipping fee. As you can see, I suspect that with the way we're going, we'll be one of the higher ones in a couple of years in the area, and some people will start looking at that. But I think at the same time we should monitor what's going on at other landfills. If they start going up substantially, we should probably do the same thing and keep monitoring what's going on there. So there's always that balance of raising the funds that we need, but not chasing away the business. And I understand what you're saying about trying to lengthen the life of their landfill, but we're doing a lot of things to do that. A lot of waste diversion, looking at new things that we can. I know staffers looking at mattresses now to get them out. We've improved our compaction rates at the landfill, buying the right equipment, changing the operations there so that you're really getting good compaction rates, so you're not using up as much of the volume for the amount of garbage that's coming in. So a lot of things are being done to prolong the life of the landfill.
Any other questions? I just want to offer that we may get a little more, we may look at getting a little more creative with how we finance this, because it's something that has to be done. And I expect infrastructure at a not too distant future meeting is going to be asking for a report on a new investigating a new cell, just because that's something we should do once in a while, I guess. And if we're faced with the end of this one we have now, then it may be prudent to get ahead of it. So anyways, I'm just suggesting that I'd like to ask that today we don't marry ourselves to option 2, because finance, one of the things we do is look at the other possibilities and creative possibilities. So anyways, can I get a motion to on the staff recommendation? Moved by Councillor Bunting. All those in favor? Carried. Thanks, Ed. Report of the Deputy Clerk. 7.1. Proxy voting for council and committee meetings. Chris, is that you?
Through the chair, this report is being presented just to follow up on direction that was provided from council for staff to review proxy voting for members at meetings of council and committees of council. Just to provide a few highlights from the report, staff did complete an environmental scan from other municipalities just to look at practices for implementing proxy voting, and found that the most common responses were either that further review was still required there, or that due to the availability of electronic meetings, it had been considered not necessary. The point there being that the benefit to proxy voting is mainly seen for in-person meetings when members can't attend. So the report also provides a number of considerations when it comes to the implementation of proxy voting for members, the biggest of which is noted when it comes to proxy voting and not being privy to discussion or new information that comes up at the meeting, and kind of impacting decision making and voting at an accountability and transparency level. So considering this, in addition to the current availability of electronic meetings for our committees and council, Staff are recommending that no further action be taken at this time with respect to proxy voting for members at meetings of council or committees of council.
Could I get a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Beatty. Is there any questions for Chris on that? Then I will call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Are you staying for the next one, Chris? Report of the city clerk.
I believe the city clerk is present and can speak to those.
Well, thank you. There she is. Okay, report of the city clerk. 8.1. Ontario Recovery and Municipal Elections Act. Tatiana, please.
So through the chair, the purpose of this report is to provide an update on changes made to the Municipal Elections Act through Bill 218, supporting Ontario's Recovery and Municipal Elections Act. As outlined in the report, the province has indicated that changes were introduced to provide consistency of the electoral process across municipal, provincial, and federal elections. The first amendment was to revoke the option for municipalities to change their electoral system by using ranked ballot elections. With this amendment, municipalities no longer have the option on the model to be used and must now conduct their elections using the first past the post model. The second change was to extend the candidate nomination period. So for the 2022 municipal election, the candidate nomination period will start on May 1st in the year of the election, and it'll run until the third Friday in August. The final amendment was to extend the deadlines to pass bylaws and establish related procedures and forms. So for the 2022 municipal election, the deadline to pass a bylaw for vote and vote counting equipment and alternative voting methods is now May 1st in the year of an election. And the deadline to establish procedures and forms is June 1st in the year of the election. So additional information has been provided in the report on the expected impacts to staff, and I'm available to answer any questions. For the chair, you are muted presently.
You could see my lips move, could you? Could I get a motion to receive this, Councillor Bunting, and any questions for Ms. Defoe? See none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Item 8.2, composition and size.
So through the chair, the purpose of this report was to provide information regarding the composition and size of Stratford City Council and to seek direction on any changes for the upcoming 2022 municipal election. The composition of council and how members are elected has changed several times since 1885 when the town of Stratford was incorporated. The size of council has ranged from as high as 15 members to the current 10 members plus the mayor. The Municipal Act provides that the minimum size of council must be 5 members, one of whom shall be the head of council. And if direction is given to change the composition of council for the 2022 election, the bylaw must be adopted as soon as possible. If the bylaw is adopted in next year, the year of the next regular election, it would not take effect until the 2026 election. So direction is requested on any changes to be made to the composition or size of council. If there are to be no changes, then direction is just requested to receive the report. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? See none. Does anyone have a motion they'd like to make? Anybody would like to make the motion to receive the report and either make or don't make a recommendation on council size? I saw Councillor Bunting, I saw first. So you're making the motion to receive the report. Are you giving any direction on council size?
No, I'm not giving any direction. I think that matter will rest with council whenever it gets to council.
Yeah, that's fine.
Next time up. So whatever we decide here could well be changed down the road. So that's why I look at it anyways. But certainly receive the report and no direction to be given to moving forward.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Tom wants to say something.
I want to say something. Yeah, I've always thought that the proper size is Stratford Council, and I have to say I'm not running again, so it matters none to me. but I always thought the proper size, and because of the big pay increase we got, that I wasn't in favor of, quite frankly. But I think the proper size of council is 8 councilors and a mayor. And then I think for a small municipality like us, we have too many councilors. I think I'm by myself in that estimation.
Okay, Councilor Ritzma, I think had something to say also.
I was gonna, and I too wasn't in favor of that that pay increase, but certainly my recommendation was to maintain the current piece, but I don't have a problem with, as Councillor Bunting suggested, that this will come back to council for more fulsome discussion and council's full recommendation. So I will support Councillor Bunting's motion.
Okay, so I will call the question again, Ms. Defoe. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, item 8.3, Deputy Mayor position.
So through the chair, the purpose of this report is to seek direction on any changes to be made to how the deputy mayor position on Stratford City Council is chosen. So as I'm sure everyone is aware, the current process to appoint a deputy mayor is to appoint the person from among the new councillors following a regular election. As outlined in the report, the following options were identified for consideration. The first being the process remains status quo. Second option being that electors directly vote for the deputy mayor position and the size of council would be increased by 1 to a total of 12. Or electors could directly vote for the deputy mayor position and the composition of council be reduced by 1 to maintain 11. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Does anybody have any questions? Or would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Clifford.
Yeah, I will make a motion that we stick with the status quo. I think it's been, all the time I've been on council, I think it's been successful, and I think we've had some great deputy mayors. So I will make that motion that we keep with the status quo.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Councillor Beatty?
Thank you. I think it should be kept the same amount of councillors, so that it's 10 plus the mayor. My only experience, I find the voting for the deputy mayor actually quite awkward. That's just my own opinion and just perception, how we have gone about this process. I wonder if it might be an opportunity for our community at large to have a larger voice in that selection process. It wouldn't surprise me if, in fact, the choices that we make are the same that our community would make. But again, it's just something that, I don't know, open up for further discussion amongst the 11 of us. I'm fine either way, but I just, like I say, I find it a little awkward.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Ritzma.
And I'll add briefly to Councillor Beatty's comments. Being in the position of that voting process, it is at times cumbersome. I hear what you're saying, Councillor Beatty, and I as well as with item 8.2, I look forward to hearing what the council has to say once we get to a full dialogue on it in a full council setting. But I agree with what you're saying, Councillor Beatty, 100%.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Item 9, Advisory Committee Outside Board for Information, World Advisory Committee, Stratford. Stratford is the World Advisory Committee. Item 10, next subcommittee meeting, June 22nd at 3:30 p.m. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Beatty. All those in favor? Carried. Stay safe, everyone.